Do the Democrats know that Iran was not going to become a nuclear threat? No. The Democrats' response to the Trump administration's strikes on Iran are pretty weak. They're basically saying that the Trump administration needs to look American citizens in the eye and tell them why they started this attack. Well, if memory serves, that is exactly what the Trump administration did. The Trump administration, in the form of at least President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, clearly articulated that they could not allow the threat of an Iranian capability with respect to nuclear weapons grow or continue. There was fairly common acceptance, even by the Democrats, of the prior attack disabling the Iranian nuclear capability. Now that intelligence allowed us to understand that the Iranians did not learn their lesson and reestablished that nuclear capability, or at least attempted a nuclear capability, why is it any different? Why is it that the Democrats can't get behind a policy which attempts to free women, free liberal environments within a country, to allow for the kind of expression that we often take for granted in the United States? Why can't Democrats get behind stopping a regime that kills tens of thousands of its people, that allows a woman to die for the so-called crime of showing her hair on her head? Why can't the Democrats get behind a policy that stops a regime that wants death to America from continuing a terrorist level of activity that fosters that very attitude? Now, I understand certain policy positions of the Democrats where they might want to say, let's not throw 300,000 troops into Iran. But this has been a relatively measured attack on Iran. It has been an attack that has risked a minimum amount of lives and has revealed Iran to be the kind of country that we understood that they are, which is a country that will strike indiscriminately with a range of targets to a range of countries that never harm them. These are all circumstances that justify a complete reevaluation on the part of the Democrats as to what they stand for with respect to these policies. Now, as I said yesterday, there has to be a deeper understanding as well of geopolitics. Geopolitics is not something that we look at in terms of coming home on the expressway or on the train or on the local street. It is something that we need to understand, that the worldwide trade in oil and other commerce ultimately affects the United States. It's not merely about whether or not the United States has a particular interest in a community in Tehran. It's about the notion that if the Russians and the Chinese are leveraging their capabilities with respect to countries like Venezuela and Iran against the interests of the United States, and the United States has an opportunity to intercede and advance a policy of freedom, then that's something that's good. We need to take a look at when and how the United States intervenes militarily. Historically, could the United States basically have taken over the world? Absolutely. In 1947, we were effectively the only country that had nuclear capability. We could have dictated the course of history in our favor in 1947. Instead of doing that, what we did was give away money to help rebuild Europe and vast parts of Asia. We fostered freedom and democracy in these countries. Do we fight France? Do we fight Germany? Do we fight England today or Canada? No, we don't. These are democratic countries that foster a communion, if you will, with the United States in effectively free commerce and not a policy of attempting to subvert everything that we want in America in terms of economic, religious, and social freedom. That is not the case that we find in Russia, China, or Iran. Now, are we going to start a war with Russia or China? No, we're not going to start a war with Russia or China. Do we have every right to deal with a regime like Iran that is being supported at some level by Russia and China? And this geopolitical endeavor on our part at least lessens the autocratic power of Russia and China and heightens the prospect for freedom and democracy in a major part of the world? Absolutely, we're going to foster that. Do we have allies such as Saudi Arabia that are unsavory, are folks that we would prefer not to do business with if we didn't have to? Absolutely. But will we be willing at some level to deal with regimes such as Saudi Arabia and tolerate them so long as they're not attempting to continue to have terrorist ambitions against the United States and at least attempt to foster greater freedoms? Are we willing to do something incremental, step by step, to advance, even if it's transactionally, the cause of freedom and free commerce across the world? All of this is also kind of tied into the discussion of tariffs. The Trump administration's advancing of tariffs against countries that were imposing tariffs and non-tariff barriers on us was a policy of fairness. Why are we, after supporting the world for 50 or more years with loans, with outright grants, with supporting them whereby they put on tariffs and non-tariff barriers to protect their economies against more developed economies like the United States, why is it that policy needed to be continued and perpetuated? The Europeans and the Democrats all basically said that the Trump administration is destroying the world order. Well, that's true. That world order was created by the United States effectively to support other countries so that they could become stronger. But at some point in time, we needed and need to say, wait a second, Germany, you're strong enough. France and England, you're strong enough to stand on your own 2 feet against a Russian level of aggression if that ever happens. So this entire geopolitical dynamic is also tied with the fact that we have tens of trillions of dollars in debt. We need to change the orientation of how we're basically supporting the world. And when we take action against Iran, it is something that is effectively a continuation of a support of freedom in the world, but it is also something that justifiably is in the interest of the United States when it comes to stopping a capability of a terrorist nuclear attack. So, my friends, we need to evaluate everything the Democrats are saying when we're looking at the midterm elections and look at fundamental policy positions that affect our daily lives, even if it's at a geopolitical level.